Hey everyone, it's Stephanie and I'm here for the second part of my Q&A because I talked too much and it went way too long. So I will link part one down below if you're interested in seeing the first part of my Q&A, but here is the second part where I get to the questions I didn't get to before. And if you're like, hey, I feel like I asked those questions like about a month ago, correctamundo, you are my friend. I just got really sick and so I'm getting to these now. But anyway, on with the Q&A. Adam over at Memento Mori asked if I do any art. I do not, because I am not creative. Although, back when my husband and I were dating, I did make him cards after our dates. And I have a few here to show you. So, I made him this for Pi Day, which we ended up getting engaged on later. Made him like this. Look at that. Hardcore, huh? Then I made him this and this, but that is really the extent of any kind of creativity that I have. So I hope that answers your question. And then he asked, along with Julie from A Girl in a Book, what my favorite kind of music is. And if I'm judging this by my most played playlists on Spotify, the first one would have to be 90s alternative. So the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Smashing Pumpkins, Nirvana, Audioslave, Soundgarden, on and on and on. Probably be like my most played. Second most played would be show tunes and Broadway. I love musicals and I love soundtracks to musicals. Like there's so many shows I want to see live. I've seen Wicked, I've seen My Fair Lady and a few others, but I really want to see Hamilton sometime in my life. I also really want to see Guys and Dolls, Chicago, and Book of Mormon. Those are my bucket list shows that I would like to see performed live. David over at The Poptimist asked, when you're not making booktube videos, what is it that you do? AKA, like, what's your day job? In my case, my night job. I work as a baker. A few nights a week, I work overnight and I bake stuff. It's really nice because during the day I get to kind of do the stay-at-home mom thing and spend time with my son and go to the park and go do stuff. But also kind of feel like I'm contributing and gives me like something to do. So I really like it. I worked a lot of office jobs when I got out of college and I hated all of them. I hate sitting in a cubicle. I would just watch the time go by on my computer. It was miserable. So I really like this because I get to walk around and I'm constantly like in motion and doing stuff. It makes the time go by faster and it's so laid back. I've said before, like I can have headphones in and like listen to audiobooks and podcasts and just kind of worry about getting my stuff done. At this point in my life, with being a mother and stuff, it just really has worked out quite nicely. His second part of his question was, who's the booktuber that convinced you, hey, I can do that? I'd say the first booktuber I ever saw was Katie over at Chapter Stacks. And that was encouraging because, as I was branching out, I saw that it was a lot of YA. So it was really nice to see that it was someone who read the same stuff that I read. That was really encouraging. And then as I was branching out, I stumbled onto a lot of videos that were, how to start a booktube channel. And those were super encouraging because I think like a lot of people was worried that I didn't have good equipment. I didn't have like a great background and I was really scared. But eventually I did garner up the courage to film that first video and post it online, which all of you that have channels know it's so scary to do that first time. But I also encourage any of you commenters and viewers to, if you're thinking about it, do it. Like, it's a great community. It's something I am so glad that I did and finally took that step. Liz Schubert asks, what's your favorite Christmas movie? I have a theory. I have no evidence to back this theory up, but I think like every family has like their Christmas movie. My family is a big A Christmas Story family. I love that movie. We watched it every year. And then when I married Jesse, like his family is a big Elf family. So I kind of had to fight for like A Christmas Story to be added to the agenda as well. And Jesse had never seen A Christmas Story, which I think is crazy, but I also can't get on him too much because I had never I still have never seen It's a Wonderful Life. My family was not, okay, before you get all on me, like, my family was not really into, like, old classic movies. Is not how I was raised, so chill out. But yeah, I thought it was weird he had never seen it. So we watched it for the first time, like, that first Christmas after we got married. And I make a point to have us watch it every year since then. I also, this one I do alone because no one else likes it, but I watch Love Actually every year. Every Christmas I watch it. Yeah, because no one else in my family likes it. I did get a few questions about hobbies. Some were for my husband, so I didn't mention this yet. By the way, I am going to film a separate video with Jesse where I ask him the questions that you guys asked him. So that is coming up. But I got asked about hobbies, which always makes me feel like the lamest person in the world. Like, I'm already, when people ask me about my hobbies, I'm like, oh, I read. I mean, I read and I post BookTube videos, but all the questions were like, outside of BookTube, what are your hobbies? So I feel like the most boring person on the planet. My hobbies are all like consumptive. Like, I like to watch TV and listen to podcasts. One that I would like to get into, I haven't yet, but I finally have a house with a pretty good sized yard and front yard. I would really like to get into gardening. So all you gardeners out there, if you have any starter tips, let me know, because that is something I would eventually like to be into. I think it would be very therapeutic to garden. Bree Hill asks, do you enjoy horror film remakes? No. And what is one that stayed true to the original? Okay, yeah. I'm not a fan of horror film remakes. I feel like they plagued, like, the 2000s. Like, they were everywhere. And they were all, I can't say all, most of them were bad. And it's because they make these remakes, and I don't think they really do research on what it was that made the original movie so successful. Example, they redid Nightmare on Elm Street, and they tried to make it darker and more scary, but the charm of Nightmare on Elm Street, I think, comes from its campiness and from the fact that Freddy Krueger is this very, like, quippy and funny, witty villain. And he had, like, no lines in the remake, and they just really focused on making him, like, this creepy figure, and I did not like it. One that I didn't hate was Amityville Horror. That may or may not be because of Ryan Reynolds. Staying true to the original, I mean, they redid The Omen with Julia Stiles, and it was like a shot-for-shot remake, so it stayed, like, too true to the original. So it's a tough line, I think, with remakes, because, like I mentioned, you have to kind of channel what it was about the original that made it successful, while too kind of adding your own thing on it, but not changing too much of it, and kind of gearing it toward a new audience. It's just too many things to do, and I don't think the horror genre has done remakes very well. Your tool tomorrow is day one of your grand adventure to travel the world and find the world's coolest bookstores. First 3 cities. I think it's lame because I live in PA, so, like, New York isn't that far away, so I shouldn't waste an opportunity like this on New York. But I've never been to New York, and I really want to go to all the cool bookstores there. Also London. I see all the British booktubers at all their awesome little cute little bookshops. I would love to go there and check all of those out. And I would love to go to Germany. I don't know if they have cool little bookstores or if there's any famous bookstores in Germany that I should know about. But I have always wanted to go to Germany. I took German in high school and I fell in love with the country and the culture, and I really, really want to go. There's so many things I want to see there that I would, if given this trip, I would find something literary to see in Germany. So I really, really want to go. But thanks for that, Brie. That was a really good question. Okay, the next one, I got asked a lot. So it was a few people, like Julie from A Girl in the Book, Molly Ritter, and then I got this on Twitter. I think Colleen asked me on Twitter favorite horror movies, and Colleen asked for top 5. So I'm just gonna go with that. And I realize I talk about horror movies a lot, so I'm sorry if you guys were expecting me to have better taste. You're probably going to be really let down. My first one, not that these are in any particular order, but Nightmare on Elm Street, the first one, the 1984 one with Johnny Depp, because it is so nostalgic and funny. The rewatch factor on that is amazing. Love it. and it's creepy. I think it's a very well done story. I really enjoy it, and like I've mentioned, it's my favorite franchise, favorite horror villain. So love it. Second, Cabin in the Woods, which in case you didn't know was co-written by Joss Whedon, and I liked it because it was, you know, it was meta horror. It was, I thought, like a very smart movie. Like it was that horror comedy that didn't lean too heavy on the comedy, and I thought it made self-referential. I thought there was some good commentary about horror movies, but when it did go on the comedy, it was hilarious. I just absolutely loved it. I thought it made some great points and it was very well done. One of my favorites. Third would have to be Rosemary's Baby. There's my cliche answer. I really loved that movie. I think it even goes beyond it being a horror movie. I think it is one of my favorite movies. I thought it was so well done. I just adored it. It is, like I said, one of my favorite. I felt like it was a perfect movie. Fourth, I'm doing two because I'm a cheater. I'm doing The Babadook and It Follows because I feel like those are two movies that have come out recently that have really brought something new to the horror genre and have kind of taken a new approach. I just really enjoyed that. I thought those were really great, really well done movies. And the last one I am doing is Let the Right One In, not the American one. I just loved it. I love this story. I really need to read the book. That is one of the books on my to-read list. Hopefully next year I will get to it. But it is the story about a young boy who is being bullied, and he befriends a vampire who is kind of stuck in like the body of a 12-year-old girl, I think. I'm not sure. The child is fairly androgynous, so I'm not sure. It doesn't matter. The point is that they develop this friendship, and it was a tale I really loved. I thought it had good horror elements. I would not say it's like a terrifying movie, but I thought it was a great story. Yeah, it was a beautiful movie, and I thought it was very poignant at times and just perfect. Amber over at Amber Eats Books asked me what my favorite childhood movie was. I loved The Land Before Time. I don't know why, because I cried every time I watched it, and I still cry. I don't know why. It was such a sad movie. When I was pregnant, I would YouTube the clip where Littlefoot's mother is dying and, you know, telling him how to get to wherever he needs to go, and I would just cry. Like it's that scene in The Office where Pam is watching that dog commercial video and just crying. Like that was me, but with The Land Before Time. Like I would look it up on YouTube and just cry because I was pregnant and crazy. But yeah, that was one of my favorite movies. I was a big dinosaur kid. I was really into dinosaurs as a kid. So that was one of my favorites. And then she asked if I had a favorite toy or stuffed animal. I don't know that I had a stuffed animal. I had a blanket that I may or may not still have, that I slept with every night, and it was like my favorite thing in the whole world. Crystal asked, what was my favorite 90s fashion trend? And it's actually kind of coming back, but I really liked the dark nails, dark lipstick kind of look. Basically, when I watched Cruel Intentions, Sarah Michelle Gellar's character, Catherine, was like style goals. Like I still think her clothes in that movie are fantastic and amazing. I loved it. And mocha lipstick, I thought was just the height of glamour. I remember I was reading earlier this year, Hillary from Your Robot Friend and I were reading Practical Magic, and there is so much 90s fashion in that. It was so heartwarming and I loved it. Yeah, so like kind of the vampy look that's coming back, like the darker lipsticks and dark nails. Favorite 90s movie. I was obsessed with The Addams Family. I have mentioned this. I had a VHS tape that I wore out because I watched it constantly. It was one of my favorite movies ever. I wanted to be Wednesday Addams. I was a very odd child. But that was one of my favorite movies ever. Recommend a book to Michael Scott. I love you, Crystal. Okay, so I'm recommending this because I want to see this episode. I want Michael Scott to read The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. And we kind of got this in like the Gilmore Girls teaser that came out, but I want him to just like read this book about throwing away things that like don't bring you joy, and him just like going through the office and throwing like other people's things away, like him clearing off Toby's desk, or like us like seeing his condo and it's like empty because he has thrown like everything away, or him not throwing things away. Just I want him to read that book and that to be a plot point on The Office. Like I mentioned, I think in the new Gilmore Girls trailer, it looks like Emily reads that book and she kind of is doing that. But I would really love Michael to have read that book. I just remembered that Colleen's question had more parts to it. She also asked me what my top 5 favorite horror novels are. And so this is, at this point in time, there are still a lot of horror novels I haven't read, mind you, okay? But at this point in time, I will say it is House of Leaves, The Exorcist, Head Full of Ghosts, Dracula, Pen Pal are probably my top 5. Like I said, right now at this moment, there are so many on my to-read list that I haven't checked out. So for right now, those are my favorite, but that could possibly and probably very much will change. Go over at Knowledge Lost asked me what my journey is with works in translation. I think the first book in translation I read was 100 Years of Solitude. I am currently reading Love in the Time of Cholera. I do want to eventually read all of his works. I've read like Water for Chocolate. There's a whole lot of others I want to get to. I think actually my first one might have been Anna Karenina in high school. It hasn't really been a journey, I feel like, because I haven't really, unfortunately, gone out of my way to read a whole lot of translated fiction. It's just kind of happened because books are critically acclaimed, or they're considered classics, or books you must read. But as of now, I would say it's a journey that's at the very beginning. Conrad over at 7 Days of Sea asked, pick a book from your collection where the cover annoys you for some reason. Why? So, The Age of Innocence is one of my favorite books. I read it in high school, but for some reason, it really spoke to high school me. And when I moved, I didn't get to bring a whole lot of stuff. We traveled cross country and I just kind of moved to Pennsylvania, and I forgot my copy of Age of Innocence. So I needed to have one in my house, so I picked this up at a thrift store, and I hate it. I don't necessarily mind the artwork. It's this border. I think it's hideous. The color palette is so muted and gross, and I don't like it. I almost prefer my mass market paperback, like Barnes & Noble edition, to this. I think this is hideous. I hate this floral border. I don't think it's doing anything. It's not doing anyone any favors. Yuck.